Did you know some indigenous tribes believe that cutting your hair weakens your soul, or that during World War II, the U.S.C. military secretly recruited scouts based on the length of their hair because long-haired men could sense danger before it arrived? It sounds like folklore, but the unsettling truth is, modern science still can't fully explain the link between hair and human intuition. And if lately you felt your hair behaving differently, falling out without reason, growing faster than usual, or your scalp tingling in moments of deep silence, you might want to pause. Because this may not be your body breaking down, it could be your energy field breaking open. And your hair, the part we often dismiss as purely cosmetic, might be the first thing reacting. So what's really happening? Why does your hair change when your soul begins to awaken? And how do you recognize, receive, and respond to these subtle signals? Let's uncover the truth right now. It started as a quiet question, not loud, not urgent, but persistent, like a soft knock from somewhere deeper than thought. Why does my hair feel different lately? Not just in texture or thickness, but in presence, like it was listening, holding something, whispering something I couldn't yet understand. For a while, I ignored it, blamed the stress, blamed the weather, even bought a new shampoo, but the feeling didn't go away. In fact, it grew. There were mornings I'd wake up from vivid dreams, only to find my scalp tingling like electricity. I'd brush my hair and feel a strange resistance, as if my fingers were combing through old memories I hadn't lived in years. It wasn't just hair anymore. It felt aware, like it knew things I hadn't yet remembered. That's when I began to look deeper. I came across ancient traditions, stories from people long before us. In Native American culture, warriors would never cut their hair, believing it carried their spiritual strength and heightened awareness. Some believed hair was a natural extension of the nervous system, amplifying intuition, sensing danger, even transmitting energy. In Hindu traditions, hair is seen as an antenna to the cosmos, especially when grown at the crown, where the energy of higher consciousness enters the body. And in dreams, I started to notice patterns, hair falling out in handfuls after moments of emotional release, or growing rapidly after moments of silence and inner stillness. That's when I stopped brushing my hair mindlessly. I began touching it with intention, speaking to it, asking it, "What are you holding that I'm ready to let go of?" And slowly, I realized something. Hair is not dead matter. It is alive with memory. It is woven with vibration. And when we go through a spiritual shift, our hair responds, first silently, then obviously. The more I changed inside, the more my hair revealed those changes outside. Sometimes it felt heavy, sometimes electric, sometimes softer than I remembered. It reacted to people, to places, to thoughts. I began to understand. Hair is not decoration. It is communication, a mirror of our unseen selves, a thread between the body and the soul. And the moment we stop treating it as just something to wash and cut, we open ourselves to a completely new form of inner dialogue, one strand at a time. So if your hair has been reacting in ways you can't explain, falling out, tingling, changing texture, this might not be something to fix. It might be something to feel, a sign that your body is speaking in the oldest language it knows, through the threads of your becoming, through the sacred antenna you've carried since birth. And when you finally begin to listen, transformation follows. Because once you understand that hair is not just matter, but memory, energy, and guidance, you begin to treat it as such, with reverence, with gentleness, with respect. In the next part of this journey, we'll explore what happens when your hair begins to fall, and how what seems like a loss might actually be the very beginning of your soul's release. It was a Tuesday morning when I noticed it. Nothing dramatic, just a few extra strands on the pillow. a little more hair in the drain. My brush looked fuller than usual. At first, I panicked, because that's what we're taught to do, right? If something's falling out, something must be wrong. Hormones, stress, age, nutrition. My mind chased every possible explanation, but deep down, I knew this wasn't just physical, because the timing was too aligned. I had just ended a toxic relationship. I had just started journaling again. After years of silence, I had cried for the first time in months and meant it. And now, my hair was falling out. That's when I remembered something I once read. When you're ready to let go of who you were, the body follows. What if the shedding wasn't a problem to fix, but a message to receive? I began to wonder, what was I actually letting go of? Not just hair, but identities, versions of me built on people-pleasing, on pretending, on fear. Each fallen strand felt symbolic, like an old story being gently pulled from my scalp, so that something freer could grow in its place. And yes, it was emotional. There were moments I stood in front of the mirror, running my fingers through my thinning hair, feeling raw, exposed, even fragile. But strangely, I didn't feel broken. I felt honest, like my body had finally caught up to the inner shift. I had been too afraid to speak out loud. You see, hair isn't just attached to your head, it's attached to your journey. It holds energy from every argument, every heartbreak, every unspoken truth. And when your soul starts awakening, when your frequency rises, anything that's carrying the weight of the past must be released. That includes your hair. I know that might sound strange, but when you stop seeing hair loss as failure and start seeing it as a sacred shedding, everything changes. Instead of resisting the process, I started to work with it. Each night, I'd massage my scalp with warm oil, not to force growth, but to offer comfort. I'd whisper affirmations like, I release the weight of who I no longer am. I trust the wisdom of my body. I allow space for the new to come through. And slowly, what felt like loss began to feel like freedom. The hair I lost made room for a self I hadn't met yet, one that wasn't built on holding it all together, but on letting go gently, intentionally, honestly. So if you're experiencing this too, if your hair is falling and you don't know why, pause. Ask what your soul is asking to release. And remember, shedding doesn't mean something is wrong. It often means something is working deeply, silently, and in ways the mind can't measure. In the next part, we'll explore the opposite side of the mirror, what it means when your hair grows faster than ever, as if your body is trying to catch up with your rising soul. Let's keep going. For months, I had been focused on letting go of the pain, letting go of who I thought I had to be, letting go of everything that no longer felt like truth. Then, almost without warning, something shifted. I began to wake up feeling lighter, not in mood, but in something else I couldn't quite name, like something new had taken root inside me. And then I saw it, first on the sides of my face, then around my crown, fine baby hairs, dozens of them springing up like soft green shoots in spring. My hair was growing, not just growing, it was rushing to grow, faster than usual, in places that had been sparse for years. I hadn't changed my diet, hadn't started any new supplements, but my hair was responding to something I couldn't see, but I could feel. At first, I dismissed it as coincidence, but then the texture began to change, softer in some areas, curvier in others. The strands felt different, not just in appearance, but in energy, like they had purpose, like they were carrying something into the world on my behalf. I started researching, not from science books, but from stories, ancient stories, the kind passed down by word of mouth, from grandmother to daughter, from shaman to apprentice. In many cultures, sudden hair growth was never just cosmetic, it was spiritual. In some Native American tribes, They believed that rapid hair growth after loss was a sign that your spirit had re-entered the body with a new mission. In yogic philosophy, hair is seen as a conductor, a way for spiritual energy, or prana, to flow more freely through the crown and into the physical world. And when your energy shifts, when your vibration rises, the body, including the hair, adjusts to match. I began to wonder, was my hair growing because my soul was finally expanding? Was it responding to a part of me I hadn't yet fully stepped into? You see, we often think of hair as a side effect, a cosmetic detail, something we bleach, straighten, cut, or curl to fit the outside world. But maybe, just maybe, hair is not reacting to the outside world at all. Maybe it's responding to our inner one, to the grief we've released, to the clarity we've reclaimed, to the life we finally said yes to. One night, I lit a candle and sat in silence, hands gently brushing through my hair. I whispered a question into the dark. What are you trying to tell me? And the answer didn't come in words. It came as a memory of the first time I ever felt free in my body, of the moment I stood barefoot in the forest, heart beating like a drum, and for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of who I was becoming. That memory had been stored in me, and now it was growing back out. That's the thing most people don't realize. Hair holds emotion, it holds history, it holds hope. And when you've been healing, really healing, not just surviving, your body often celebrates by creating, by growing, by manifesting something new from something old. Some days, your hair may come in softer because your heart has softened. Other days, it may grow wilder because you finally stopped taming yourself. There are even moments when its color seems to change slightly. A few shimmering strands appear, not gray with age, but silver with wisdom. I remember a woman I once worked with, a quiet artist who had spent years battling depression. After a long period of deep inner work, she shared something unexpected. My hair used to be thin and brittle, she said, but now it's thicker and curlier, like it's alive again. We laughed, but not with disbelief, with recognition, because I had felt it too. When you reclaim yourself, when you stop lying to your soul, your body rejoices. And sometimes it does that through hair. Of course, not everyone experiences it this way. Some people's hair doesn't grow. It stays the same. That's okay. This is not about chasing signs. It's about listening for resonance. But if your hair is shifting in speed, texture, thickness, or even direction, ask yourself, what am I growing into? What part of me is finally free to come forward? You might be surprised at the answer, or maybe, like me, you'll simply smile at your reflection, run your fingers through what's newly emerged, and whisper, welcome back. So, if you're noticing new growth, new waves, a softness you didn't expect, know this: you are not just changing your hair. Your hair is revealing that you have changed, that you are becoming someone who no longer hides from their own power, someone whose soul is no longer in retreat, but in full bloom. And this is only the beginning. In the next part of our journey, we'll explore a sensation many people feel, but few understand, that quiet buzz at the top of your scalp, and why it might be the gateway to everything you've been waiting to receive. Let's continue. It started as a tingle, soft, subtle, almost like the lightest fingertip had brushed across the top of my head, then vanished. At first, I thought it was nothing, static, a stray nerve, a random itch, but then it happened again and again, always when I was still or quiet or asking bigger questions than usual. And soon, the tingle became a hum, a soft warmth radiating at the very top of my skull. Sometimes it pulsed, sometimes it shimmered, sometimes it felt like I was wearing a crown of invisible electricity. That's when I realized my scalp was speaking. We don't talk much about the scalp, We talk about hair, about style, color, texture, but the skin beneath the strands, the quiet surface between us and the sky, that space holds something sacred. In spiritual traditions across the world, the crown of the head is seen as the gateway, not metaphorically, literally. It is where the crown chakra resides, the seventh energy center in the body, the place through which higher consciousness enters, divine downloads, universal truth, inner peace. And when that gateway begins to open, your body lets you know. Some feel pressure, others a warm, breeze-like sensation. Some describe a tingling like champagne bubbles. I've even heard people say it feels like their hair is lifting, though there's no wind in the room. At first, it's easy to dismiss, but when it keeps returning, you begin to ask deeper questions. I remember one moment clearly. I had just finished a long meditation. There were no visions, no grand messages, just stillness. And yet, as I sat in that quiet space, I felt it again, a glowing center at the top of my head, not painful, not overwhelming, but unmistakably alive. It was like someone had unscrewed the lid to my being, and light, pure, intelligent light was pouring in. Science might call it nerve activity, but the soul knows better, because it doesn't just happen at random. It happens when you start asking, who am I? Really, what else is possible? What am I being called to become? The crown responds not to noise, but to intention. It hums when you begin to align, when your outer life starts to soften under the truth rising within. I've spoken to many people who feel this same sensation, but they're afraid to say it out loud, afraid it sounds crazy, afraid it's nothing, afraid it means something's wrong. But here's what I've come to believe. When the scalp begins to buzz, when that crown begins to pulse, it's not a problem. It's a beginning. Imagine your scalp as a field of energy receptors. When they're dormant, they're quiet. When you begin to wake up, they listen, they receive. You might notice it most during moments of prayer, meditation, or deep breathing, standing under the moonlight, having a hard conversation that opens your heart. These aren't coincidences. They are activations. You are not imagining the buzz. You are being attuned. But I'll be honest, it's not always comfortable. Some days, the sensation is intense, like your whole crown is pulsing with too much light. You might feel dizzy, disoriented, emotionally raw. That's okay. It means your nervous system is catching up to your soul's expansion. The best thing you can do is ground. When this happens to me, I gently place both hands on my scalp, not to fix it, but to honor it. I close my eyes, breathe deep into the soles of my feet, and imagine golden light flowing down from the crown, through the spine, into the earth. I whisper, I receive what I'm ready for. I trust what I cannot yet explain, and I release the rest. There's a kind of peace that follows that practice, like your body realizes it's safe to awaken, because the scalp is not just reacting, it's relaying, it's carrying information, it's broadcasting your alignment, it's reminding you you are a bridge between earth and sky. And here's something beautiful to notice. As your crown opens, your hair may change too, softer at the top, more sensitive to wind, even glossier in some cases, as if light is being stored there. Some say this is the energy of awakening being expressed physically. And while there's no scientific proof, you don't need science to know what your body already understands. So if your scalp is buzzing, don't fear it, feel it, lean into it. Let it guide you back to the parts of yourself you thought were too quiet to matter, because the crown doesn't open in chaos. It opens in clarity, in reverence, in truth. And when it does, you are no longer just living, you are listening. In the next part of our journey, we'll go deeper into sensitivity, why your hair seems to feel things now, other people's energy, tension in a room, even shifts in the moon, and how tuning into that sensitivity can unlock a deeper power than you ever knew you carried. Let's keep going. There's something surreal about standing in a room full of people and realizing it's not their words you're reacting to. It's their energy, and sometimes it's your hair that tells you first, not your logic, not even your emotions, but the way your hair seems to prickle. When someone walks in the room, the way it suddenly feels heavy after a draining conversation, the way it moves differently, even without wind. When you're in a place charged with sacred energy, I used to think I was imagining it until it happened again and again and again. We often forget that hair, despite being outside of us, is still of us, still alive with subtle intelligence, still in conversation with everything our body senses and everything it doesn't yet know how to explain. And during a spiritual awakening, this conversation grows louder because as your consciousness expands, so does your sensitivity, not just emotionally, energetically. You begin to pick up on the subtle, the invisible, and hair thin, responsive, and vibrational by nature becomes a kind of tuning fork. I remember walking into a new space once, an old building with high ceilings and cold marble floors, beautiful, quiet, empty, but the moment I stepped through the threshold, my hair shifted. It stood taller, almost stiffened, as if reaching, listening, warning. There was no sound, no person nearby, but something in the air was dense, like an old memory had never left. And my body, it knew. More specifically, my hair did. In ancient cultures, this wasn't superstition. It was wisdom. Shamans, monks, mystics, many were known to keep their hair long, not out of vanity, but because they believed it allowed them to feel the world more fully. Some said hair acted like a spiritual antenna. Others believed it spoke to the nervous system before danger arrived. Modern science may not fully explain it, but spiritual tradition remembers, and more importantly, so does your body. You might notice it during emotional highs. When you're in deep gratitude, your hair feels lighter, almost as if it's glowing from within. During anxiety, it may feel thick, tangled, harder to move through, like it's collecting static from your fear. In moments of creative flow, your hair can feel charged, wild, electric, full of movement, and in spaces of deep peace, like after meditation, your hair lies flat, soft, surrendered. It's not your imagination, it's your vibration, and your hair is simply mirroring it. Some people tell me, lately, my hair doesn't feel like mine. They say it with worry, confusion, but I invite them to reframe it. What if your hair is simply becoming attuned to who you are now? What if it's shedding the dullness of suppression and learning to respond to life again, not reactively, but intuitively? This sensitivity is a gift, but it must be managed, because when you start feeling everything, everything can become too much. I've had days where my hair felt so charged, so reactive to energy, that I had to go outside barefoot just to discharge the static. Other days, it felt limp, like it had absorbed someone else's sadness. And in those moments, I had to remind myself, my hair isn't betraying me. It's communicating with me. It's letting me know that I've entered a new level of resonance. And with resonance comes responsibility. So how do you care for this sensitivity, not just physically, but energetically? Here's what has helped me. 1. Intentional grooming. When I brush or comb my hair, I do it slowly. I visualize it releasing energy, discharging what doesn't belong. Each stroke becomes a reset. 2. Energetic shielding. Before entering dense spaces or social gatherings, I set an intention. Let only love enter. Let only light stay. I imagine a field around my hair, soft and golden, filtering the noise. 3. Nature grounding. If my hair feels off, I go into nature. Even 5 minutes in sunlight can reset its frequency. Trees don't ask for performance. They just help us return. 4. High vibration oils, lavender, rosemary, sandalwood, not just for scent, but for energy. Massaging the scalp with these oils helps bring clarity and calm to both body and field. 5. Listening. If I feel discomfort, I pause. I ask, "What are you trying to tell me?" Sometimes the answer comes, sometimes it doesn't, but the asking matters. I've come to see my hair as a compass, not one that points north, but one that points inward. When it flattens, I ask what I'm suppressing. When it tangles, I ask what emotion I haven't fully processed. When it shines, I celebrate the alignment I've nurtured, because hair, at its most awakened, isn't just a reflection of beauty. It's a reflection of being, and when you begin to see it that way, your relationship with it changes. It's no longer something to tame. It becomes something to trust. So if your hair is reacting to people, to places, to energy, you're not crazy. You're awake. You're no longer numb to the world. You're in tune with it. And your hair, it's helping you hear what your intuition already knows. In the next part, we'll go even deeper into the seemingly magical ways your hair may change color, texture, and movement. As your soul continues to evolve, let's continue. There's something almost mystical about waking up one morning, looking in the mirror, and realizing your hair doesn't quite look the same, not just in length, not just in volume, but in character. It may feel softer or coarser, lighter in color. Even though you haven't dyed it, a new wave may appear in strands that were always straight, or a curl may loosen into gentle ripples like it's remembering a different rhythm. At first, I thought it was the weather, or age, or just a fluke. But deep down, I knew something inside me had shifted, and my hair was keeping record. We tend to view changes in hair as cosmetic, a matter of vanity, surface, style. But what if the hair is not changing for appearance, but as an expression, a reflection of something invisible that is now ready to be seen? I remember a moment, maybe 6 months into my awakening. I had been meditating daily, letting go of old wounds, unlearning versions of myself that were built to survive, not thrive. I was healing, but I was also grieving, letting go of people, places, old dreams that no longer belonged. And then, one morning, as I brushed my hair under the sunlight, I saw it, a single silver strand, not gray from stress, not white from age, but a shimmering silver, almost luminescent, like moonlight, had woven itself into my hair. I didn't feel old. I felt ancient, wise, like I had lived 1,000 lives, and they were all finally meeting in this one. That strand felt sacred, and over time, more came, not in patches, not in chaos, but like sacred threads being revealed, as if my hair was saying, "You're remembering who you really are." Texture changes followed too. Some days, it would feel feather light, dancing freely with no effort. Other days, dense, like it had absorbed something heavy from within. And then suddenly, in seasons of release, the texture would shift again, smooth, expansive, even new. At first, it was strange, but then I realized my hair wasn't just reacting to the external world. It was responding to the evolution of my soul. In energetic terms, your body recalibrates when your frequency rises. And since hair is part of that body growing from it, carrying energy with it, it reflects every subtle transformation. Some people even report hair growing back in after years of thinning, not because of a product, but because of inner clarity. Others find new colors appearing, golden strands, red tints, even white flecks at surprisingly young ages. They say, "I feel more like me," and my hair suddenly looks like someone I don't recognize, to which I always respond, "Maybe you're just now seeing yourself without distortion." Because awakening isn't about becoming someone new. It's about becoming someone true. And truth looks different. It feels different. Sometimes It shows up in the skin, sometimes in the eyes, and yes, sometimes in the hair. If you're experiencing these shifts, if your curls are softening, or your straight hair is starting to wave, if light is catching your strands in unfamiliar ways, pause, breathe, touch your hair with presence. Ask yourself, what part of me is being revealed now? This isn't vanity, it's vulnerability. It's your soul saying, I'm ready to be seen. There's a story I carry close to my heart. A woman I met during a retreat. She had always had thick, dark hair, strong, commanding, but after months of energy healing, journaling, and inner child work, her hair began to change. It lightened, softened, curls appeared where there had been none. At first, she was unsettled. This isn't the hair I grew up with, she said. And I looked at her, smiling gently, and replied, maybe it's the hair your spirit always wanted, because the soul is not always quiet. Sometimes it speaks in strands, in texture, in tone, in the way your hair lies down softer when you've finally forgiven someone, or the way it lifts again when you've started to trust yourself. Hair doesn't lie. It listens, it holds, and when the time is right, it tells. So what do we do with this? We honor it, not with chemicals, not with control, but with care, with reverence, with curiosity. Try this. The next time you notice your hair feeling different, don't reach for the scissors. Reach for your journal. Write, what am I ready to let go of? What is trying to emerge through me? And then just listen, not for words, but for resonance. Because often, the biggest spiritual transformations don't shout. They whisper, they shimmer, they grow from the crown and fall softly across your shoulders. In the next part, we'll explore how to work with these changes, not just observe them, but integrate them. Because when you begin to treat your hair as sacred, you create space for it to guide you on a much deeper level than you ever imagined. Let's continue. We spend so much of our lives managing our hair, cutting it, styling it, hiding it, judging it. But what happens when we begin to honor it? What happens when we stop seeing hair as a task and begin to treat it as a teacher? That's what I began asking myself. After months of sensing its shifts, seeing it change color, texture, even presence, as my inner world unfolded, the question wasn't, how do I fix this? It became, how do I listen to this? Because if my hair was indeed a sacred antenna, a record keeper of memories, emotions, and energetic truth, then I needed to care for it like something holy, something ancient, something alive. So I began small, not with products, not with routines, but with intention. Each time I brushed my hair, I slowed down, I paid attention. I noticed the way it moved, the way it felt. Sometimes it was soft and receptive. Other times, it resisted, tangled, tight, dense. And rather than pulling through it impatiently, I asked, what am I holding on to today? What energy am I brushing out of my field? That shift, just that question, turned brushing my hair from a habit into a healing. I created simple rituals. On full moons, I would oil my scalp in silence, using lavender or rosemary, massaging in small circles with my fingertips. Each movement became a message. I am clearing what no longer serves. I am calling in what aligns. On difficult days, I would braid my hair, not for fashion, but for focus. I'd speak into the braid as I wove it. My prayers, my intentions, my boundary. It felt ancient, like something my great-great-grandmother once did, without ever explaining why. Now I understand. These small acts were never just about hair. They were about alignment. There's a reason why warriors, monks, and mystics throughout history have treated hair with sacred attention, because to touch the head is to approach the seat of spirit. In many cultures, the crown of the head was off limits unless by invitation, a space reserved for ceremony, for blessing, for intimacy. And today, Even in the quiet of your own bathroom, you can create that same reverence. You don't need candles or mantras or music, just presence and care. Here are a few practices I've found powerful, gentle enough for daily life, yet deep enough to shift your energy field. 1. The conscious comb before bed. Sit in silence. Comb your hair slowly, from root to end. With each stroke, release tension. Breathe out stories that aren't yours. Feel your scalp soften, your nervous system unwind. Let the comb be a conduit, carrying static away. 2. The elemental rinse. Once a week, rinse your hair with something from nature. A herbal tea, rainwater, even ocean water. If you live near the sea, let the element cleanse more than just dirt. Let it refresh your frequency. 3. The whisper ritual. Gently speak to your hair. Yes, out loud. Say thank you. Say I'm listening. Say, I release the fear I've been carrying at the roots. Sound is vibration. Your hair remembers tone even more than words. 4. The intention cut. If you feel drawn to cut your hair, don't do it from frustration. Do it from clarity. Before the cut, ask, what am I letting go of? What identity no longer fits? Let each snip mark a release. Let it become a sacred transition. This isn't about control. It's about connection. Because the deeper I got into this journey, the more I realized my hair always knew when I was in alignment. On days when I honored my truth, my hair felt light, open, soft. On days when I betrayed myself, it dulled, coiled, tightened. It was a mirror, one I had ignored for too long. You don't need to believe in magic to sense the intelligence of your hair. It responds to mood, to memory, to moon cycles and body chemistry and spiritual thresholds. And once you begin working with it consciously, a beautiful thing happens. It becomes your ally. Hair that was once tangled with shame begins to flow with self-recognition. Hair that once broke under pressure begins to strengthen under truth. And over time, the relationship evolves. You no longer ask, what's wrong with my hair today? You ask, what is my hair trying to tell me? That one shift can change everything. In the next part of our journey, we'll bring it all together, exploring how your hair is not just reflecting your awakening, but actively guiding it. We'll dive into the final stage, how to integrate these signs, trust your inner knowing, and walk forward, not just awakened, but aligned. Let's keep going. There comes a moment in every inner journey when the signs stop feeling like signs and start feeling like conversations, soft, quiet, personal. That's what my hair became for me. Not just a signal, not just a reflection, but a guide, a living thread woven between my physical body and my subtle knowing, something I could feel and trust. When words or logic fell short, we often wait for the universe to speak loudly, to show us burning bushes or thunder in the sky. But what if guidance shows up as a silver strand glinting in the light? Or the way your curls suddenly soften after forgiveness? What if your hair has always known the direction your soul was trying to take? Looking back now, I realize how many times my hair tried to tell me I was changing, long before I was ready to admit it. It grew unruly when I was forcing myself into boxes. It thinned when I stayed in places I had outgrown. It tangled when I stopped speaking up. It gleamed when I finally let go. Each shift was a message, each sensation a whisper. The mistake was thinking it was random. The growth came when I stopped ignoring and started integrating. Integration is not a checklist. It's a way of being. It's the difference between observing your hair change and honoring what it reflects inside you. It's choosing to slow down when your scalp buzzes after a hard conversation. It's choosing to breathe when your hair suddenly feels dense after a day in chaotic energy. It's knowing when to cleanse, when to shield, and when to simply be with it. Not fix, not force, just be. I've learned that your hair doesn't need you to be perfect. It just needs your presence. Because the moment you start listening, you remember something ancient. You are not just a soul with a body. You are an energy system with memory. And your hair carries some of that memory with stunning fidelity. It remembers who you used to be. It helps you feel who you're becoming. And when your inner world becomes too vast to explain, it translates that truth into texture, tone, and movement. Now, when I look in the mirror, I no longer just see my reflection. I see a journal, a map, a record of every moment I chose to stay, to evolve, to return to myself. My hair is no longer an ornament. It is a storyteller, and the story it tells is mine, in strands. So, what does this mean for you? It means the journey doesn't end here. It begins every day, in the quiet noticing, the intentional touch, the subtle changes that no one else may see, but you feel. It means that your body has always been wiser than you knew, and your hair, that sacred, sensitive, electric part of you, has been guiding you toward truth since the beginning. So here's what I invite you to do. The next time you run your hands through your hair, pause, close your eyes, ask, what have I been carrying? And what am I ready to release? And then trust what comes, even if it's silence, even if it's stillness, because sometimes silence is the clearest answer, and stillness is the strongest direction. You are not going crazy. You are awakening. You are not falling apart. You are shedding. You are not losing your identity. You are remembering your essence. And your hair, every strand, is with you. Every step of the way, this journey, from scalp to soul, has only one real destination: authenticity. Not perfection, not control, just truth. Lived, breathed, embodied, and yes, sometimes grown out in waves of silver, gold, or midnight black. However it shows up for you, may you trust it, may you tend to it, may you walk with it as the ally it was always meant to be. Thank you for listening, and thank your hair for remembering what you once forgot. The soul always leaves clues. Sometimes they're right there in the mirror, ready to be seen, ready to be honored, ready to grow. If something in this journey resonated with you, if a part of you felt seen in the stillness between the words, then maybe this wasn't just a video. Maybe it was a mirror, a reminder that your body is wise, that your soul is speaking, and that your hair has been listening all along. So if you're ready to walk this path more consciously, to trust your transformation, to honor your sensitivity, and to meet others who are awakening too, I invite you to stay with us. Subscribe so you don't miss the next step. Share this video with someone who's felt off lately but couldn't explain why. And in the comments below, gently write, I trust the guidance within me, because you're not alone on this path. And sometimes, all it takes is one small message to feel seen and remembered. Thank you for being here. Your awakening is sacred, and so are you. See you in the next story.